Hi folks, it's Jim Martin. Hey, I wanted to jump on and talk about the recent incursion by Ukrainian forces into the Kursk region of Russia. So this is one of the first times that Ukraine has made a cross-border incursion of this sort. They've done raids and things like that, but nothing like this scale. From what folks have said, it sounds like they've used something like 5,000 to 7,000 troops and vehicles and all kinds of equipment in this incursion. And there's a lot of questions in the news media about that. And you've probably heard about this. And what this is about is redirecting and trying to put the Russians on kind of their back foot. The Russians have been pushing forward slowly, brutally, as is kind of their way, over the last several months in the eastern regions of the territory that they took over from Ukraine, throwing thousands of troops at the Ukrainians, constant shelling of towns and just grinding things out. They have very little respect for their own troops, so they just kind of grind them out. They've got plenty of people to spare in the thinking of the Russian generals. Now, what does this incursion accomplish? It takes pressure off of other areas. There's an area just to the east of where this incursion happened, where the Russians have been throwing a lot of weight at the contact line and pushing the Ukrainians back. And it may also have some effect on some of the other sort of regions of the war to the further to the southeast and to the south. The Ukrainians have been doing a number of things, not anything to this degree, over the last 6 or 8 months, that they reshape the battlefield, so to speak. So they create conditions whereby they may be able to launch an assault like this. The Ukrainians have a lot of capabilities and have been extremely resilient, but they haven't been able to do something of this scale. And so this shaping of the battlefield is with the ultimate goal of, driving the Russians out of those occupied territories, Crimea and the Donetsk and Donbass regions. This is unlikely to be sustained, this particular incursion, because I don't think that's what its purpose is. Its purpose is to draw Russians away from other areas, force them to fight, inflict a lot of casualties, and then back out. I can't imagine that they're going to try to possess this territory as sort of a bargaining chip or anything like that, because then they'd end up in the same situation where the Russians would kind of surround that and just start annihilating it with glide bombs and artillery and everything else. And they would do it even though it's their own territory and their own towns. The incursion appears to be something like 10 to 15 miles in depth from the border at this point. It could grow. We'll see. It's going to take about a week for the Russians to truly draw off forces from other areas and begin to effectively fight back against it. And in the meantime, they're going to take a lot of casualties. Could this create an uprising in Russia? No, extremely unlikely. The Russian state has real solid control over what the people see and hear, and the ability of people to get on social media and talk about these things is virtually non-existent, and often you would end up in prison if you had anything negative to say. Interesting development, probably not something that is going to last for a long time, but it does show that the Ukrainians have the capability to do these sorts of things, which is another point of this, really twofold, in that they can show their Western partners that they've been able to launch this combined arms attack across the border, achieve some objectives, and withdraw when that time comes. And it shows the Russians that, hey, we can do this. That makes the Russians have to guard areas that they weren't having to guard before, which drains resources from their ability to continue their, kind of grinding, crushing, brutalist attacks elsewhere. I'll provide updates on Ukraine as things warrant. If you like this content, please be sure to subscribe. I'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.